Hello everyone, so welcome back to this channel once again, and in this video session I will discuss how to obfuscate an SQL routine or an SQL trigger. SQL routine denotes here an SQL procedure or an SQL function. So basically when we create an SQL routine or an SQL trigger, we write the original statements in the source. So basically whatever the logic behind any routine would be exposed to everyone on the system. So anyone can look onto the logic from the catalogs. So if I want, no one should know what actually was written behind a particular routine or a trigger, so that what I can do is I can obfuscate that SQL routine or an SQL trigger. So let me show you an example that what I'm talking about. So this is the SQL procedure create a statement. So here you can see I have this statement that is creating an SQL procedure named this, and these are the input parameters to this. So this is the name through which this SQL procedure gets called or dropped. This is the name through which SQL procedure gets uniquely identified. So basically we should use this one for dropping always. And when the object gets created, that object name would be this one. Now this is the begin and end. So whatever the begin and end is the body of this SQL routine, that is the SQL procedure. So whatever the statements were written between this one are the actual statements or are the actual logic of this SQL procedure. So I want this logic to be obfuscated. So what I can do is I have two ways. First one is the wrap SQL function available in this is IBM ADM schema, and second one is the create underscore wrapped SQL procedure available in the same schema. So both can be used to obfuscate an SQL routine or SQL trigger. How? I'll let you know in this video. So let me create the original procedure from here. So I can create it from here as well. So this is the, let's say if I want to create it from here, so I can use the run SQL statement. I need to mention the source file, the library, the source member, commit statement, commit as star none, default collection, that is from page down I will get the default collection, that is the library name again. And from here we can mention the debug view, that is so that I can debug this procedure. But let me tell you, whenever you obfuscate and procedure, you cannot debug that. So we cannot make it debug. So let's compile it. So if you compile it, you can see this procedure got created with no error. If I do work object case 3, so you can see that case 3 object is present, which is an SQL procedure this. Now let's come here, just run this command to remove this library. If available in the library list, then add it. So I have added this library to the library list. Now let me show you the first way, which is an SQL WRAP function. So this would be available in the sysfuncs table. I would be using this one, wrap clause one, and this is present in this IBM ADM schema. The another one was the procedure, that is create underscore wrapped, and present in the same schema. So we can refer this from sysprocs table because this is the procedure, and this is referred from wrap sysfuncs table. Now I have already created this procedure from the command line using the run SQL statement. What I can do is I can drop that from here using drop procedure statement. Now I can create it from here. So once I create it, You can see it's creating. Now it is created. What I can do, I can just query this sprox because this is the procedure with that procedure name which is created. So if I query in this sprox table, I can find an entry here. Now, if you look here, you will find the all the information about this stored procedure which is just created. Now, the most important thing here is this column, routine underscore definition. So one can refer this column to get what exactly is going to be happen in this procedure, insert recall to PF1. So basically this is going to run this statement. So you can see within begin and end, everything got uh, populated here, that is begin and then this one and then end. So whatever the logic or the body or the statement within the body has been populated here, so one can know what actually the logic is. Now I want to obfuscate it. I don't want anyone to know what the actual logic is. So what I can do, I can just obfuscate that. So before obfuscating my routine, what I can do is first I can verify whether my SQL procedure is working fine. So I can just delete the record from PF1 and then I can call this using call this statement. It accepts three parameter. So once I call this procedure with these parameter, it will insert the record into the PF1. I again call it with the same parameters. So if you see, there were two entries made available here. Let me call it with these parameters. Now there would be three entries available. Now you can see this procedure is working fine. Now let me delete the entries so that no entry is left in the table. Now this is how the original routine is working. Now let me drop that routine, and if I again query to this table sys procs, I won't find any entry for this procedure. That's correct. Now let me obfuscate the statement. So what I can do, I can use a wrap function which is available in this is IBM ADM schema. So I can use sys IBM ADM dot wrap function. So within that function, what I am doing is I'm passing this statement in within single quote. So whatever has been written here, this one is written here. So you can see I have written the statements as it is within this function. So basically this now becomes a parameter to this function. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the values from it. So once this is called, I will get the value that what has been written from here, this one. So let me run it now. So once I execute this, what what I will get this result that is in the globe. So now if you look at this one, create or replace procedure, insert recall to PF1. This is the parameter list. And then you can see after the parameter list, everything is wrapped. So that is started with the wrap and then this QSQ07050, and you can see you don't get what actually the logic is because the things are wrapped now. Let me copy this, right click on this one that has been the result of the above function. So this function basically returns me an SQL statement, that is the obfuscated SQL statement. Now what I can do is just remove it. This was the old one. So basically this SQL function uses the timestamp column while creating the obfuscated statement. So this statement can differ when you run it again and again. So let me copy it here. Whatever the result of that, I just copy and paste it here. So now you can see I'm going to obfuscate I am going to run the or execute the obfuscated statement. So now I'm going to create the procedure using this obfuscated statement. I'm not going to use the original statements. Now what I'll do is let me qualify it with the library name. Now let's run it. So it's basically saying that obfuscated statement is not valid just because I did not put it the semicolon. Now let's run it again. Now you can see this obfuscated statement that was a result of this function, wrap function, is now executed and created the procedure that is easy class 1 dot insert recall to pf1. So this is the schema and this is the procedure name. Now if you look at the sysprocs table for that procedure that is created with the obfuscated statement, you will find every information same except the routine definition. So you can see wrapped and then this one. So here, if you see, you will find the obfuscated statement logged within the routine underscore definition column of the sysprocs table. So now you come to know that what I'm talking about. So basically, I have obfuscated the SQL routine, and now no one would come to know that what logic was built behind this SQL procedure. So let me let me come to the bottom. So let me check this whether this routine is working fine, which is created using the obfuscated statement. So I'm going to call it again. So once I call it, let me check the data. The one we call inserted. Let's call it with the another parameter v2 and this one. Let's check the data. So this is working exactly fine. So no issue with the original. So when I created with the original statements, it was working as it is, and when I created with the obfuscated statement, it is working the same. No change in these two. So that's how it is showing that wrap function is working exactly fine and obfuscating our procedure, so the routine or trigger correctly. Now let me delete this. So this was the one way to do this. Now let's come to the another way. The first way was the SQL WRAP function, which we used to get the obfuscated statement, and then we use that obfuscated statement to create our SQL procedure. And once that was created, we tested that. We checked that in the sysprocs table. We checked that routine definition column, whether the obfuscated statement was logged so that no one could get to know what exactly the logic or the body was there for that SQL procedure. Now let's come to the second way where we are going to use the stored procedure that is create underscore wrapped. So here I'm going to first drop the SQL procedure that was created using the obfuscated statement that we get using the wrapped function. Now let's check if entry exists. That was deleted, so no entry is there in the sysprocs. Now let's create it using the, so you can see the same original statement was passed to this procedure as well. Now since we use call sysibm medium dot create underscore apt, so we are passing this whole SQL statement which is going to create the procedure this to this create underscore wrapped procedure. So this procedure will basically obfuscate will basically create the procedure with the obfuscated body. So in this case, I don't get any result like we get in the wrap function. So we don't get the obfuscated statement. And then we don't need to again create the function using the obfuscated statement that we get from that wrap function. So this is in one step, that was in two step. So just call it. So it's running, it is complete. Now if we check in sysprocs, so you will see that entry is made. Everything is same. Just check the routine definition. So now you'll get to know that routine definition is start with the wrapped and then the wrapping text. So here in this case, also you will going to create a sole procedure that is obfuscated. So no one goes to going to know that what actually the logic was. Now, if I need to test it, let me test it. Let's call it with this one and check the data. So record is inserted. Let's call this again with another parameter. Let's check the data and the record is inserted. So now you will get to know that how it is working. So using both ways, I can obfuscate my SQL routine. So the first way is in two steps where you first run this SQL wrap function to get the obfuscated statement, and then you create the procedure or your SQL routine or an SQL trigger using that obfuscated statement that you get using this function. So this is a two-step process, and this one, the second way, which is going to create a procedure with the obfuscated body in one step. That is, you just need to pass the statement and to the create underscore wrapped procedure, it will create the procedure with the obfuscated body. So that's how it works. So this was the demo for obfuscating an SQL routine or an SQL trigger. Here I took the example of the SQL procedure. You can create an SQL function. You can pass this function as a parameter